Hello. In this video, we are going to go over a compound interest problem. The first thing we need to go over when covering a compound interest problem is the formula. The formula in question here is A equals P times 1 plus R over N inside of parentheses to the power of N times T. Now let's label each thing. A, well, A is going to be your final amount. That's the amount we're going to end with after a certain amount of time that's been compounding for interest for a certain period of time. P is our starting amount. That's the amount we put in to our initial deposit. And that's going to turn into our final amount. R is our rate. Remember to move the decimal place over 2 times to the left to make sure we convert that to decimals, because it's going to go from percent to decimals. Next, we have N. N is the number of times compounded. Number of times compounded. And this means, let's say I'm compounded annually, that is once a year, biannually, twice a year, quarterly, 4 times a year, monthly, 12 times a year, weekly, 52 times a year. So that's what that number would be replaced with. And T is equal to time. And that's always going to be in years. Well, we want it in years. So let's jump into this problem. The first thing we're going to do is label. Okay, we're going to read it and label what we have. We have A, P, R, N, and T. So Ryan invests a sum of money into a savings account with a fixed annual interest rate of 4.31%. Remember, I want it as a decimal, so I have to move it over twice. And I can rewrite this now as, so write that twice. We can rewrite this now as 0.0431 as a decimal. Easy. Next, we're going to read the sentence. Compounded monthly. So it says compounded, so we know we're using our compound interest formula. And monthly is how many times within the year? Well, that's going to be 12 times in a year. So our N is 12 due to the monthly term. Next, it says after 10 years, the balance reaches 12,855 and 94 cents. Well, T is our time, so 10 years. And it says our balance is going to become that value. So 12,000 is actually going to be our final amount. And we see here, the only thing we're not given is our principal, our starting amount. And you read the question, it says, what was the amount of the initial investment? That is asking for P. So we label everything. We find out all of what we're given. We label our one unknown, and now we plug and chug into our formula. So let's slowly write this guy out. Maybe I'm just going to make this a little cleaner and put it to the side. So first, A equals P 1 plus R over N to the power of N times T. A is 12,855.94. P is equal to P. We don't know. Then we're going to replace the other stuff. So we're going to have 1 plus 0.0431, because that's our R, over N, which is 12. And we're going to put this to the power of N times T, which is 12 times 10. I'm going to move this over a little more so it's not in our way. And we'll put a little line in between. Beautiful. Beautiful. Okay. Next, we're just going to use a calculator and plug this part into a calculator. So I'm going to plug in parentheses 1 plus 0.0431 divided by 12. Or probably better if we just start with 0.0431 divided by 12 plus 1. And we get 12,855.94 equal to P times 1.00359 to the power of 10 times 12, which is 120. Next, I'm going to take 1.0359 to the power of 120. So 1.00359 to the power of 120, we get 12,855.94 is equal to P times 1.5373. So let's make sure we just write that cleanly. 5373. Now, remember, we're looking for P. So what I'm going to do is divide by the term in front of it or attached to it. And that's 1.5373. So I'm going to do that to both sides. And then you're going to see we're going to get our final answer of P, which is 12,855.94 divided by 1.5375. And we get 8,361.59. Perfect. Now, we did round our numbers as we go through here. So your number, if you decide not to round, will be a little different, but should be relatively close to the same value, if that makes sense. So that's just something to keep, just to be aware of. For example, if I were to solve this at this point, once again, 12,855.94, and we're not going to round this time, I'm going to plug this value over here into the entirety of the calculator, and we're not going to round in the calculator. I'm going to leave it in the calculator, right? So then I'm just going to divide both sides by this, and I'm going to plug that into a calculator. When we do that, you'll see the answer differs slightly because we're going to get 8,361.00 as the different answer. So you can see it's different by around 60 cents. So relatively close to one another. If there is another example you would like me to cover, please just shoot me an email or just mention in the comments. Other than that, I hope everyone has a great day.